Good morning. I have 8:30. Welcome to the final session of the NCGIS 2025 conference. Hopefully you've got some room left in your brains for what you're about to learn here. I would like to introduce Darren. He is with the state of North Carolina and has some wonderful information to share with you about the AddressNC program. I will turn it over. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Okay, go ahead and start this. So my timer starts now. Can everyone hear that okay? All right. So I'm Darren Smith with CGIA, State of North Carolina DIT, and today I want to talk about the AddressNC program. I'm the project manager for that program, and one of the best things that a project manager could hope for is that his project is sustainable, and this one is. As long as NextGen is around, this one will follow. So just know that. So the state has over 6 million address points updated monthly from the public safety answering points, the PSAPs, the county managers, the people that do addresses, all those people that maintain addresses. It can be updated as much as daily or annually. So whenever there's updates that get pushed to NextGen 911. But at a minimum, it goes through NextGen. So today I want to show you two ways that we show you what we found with all that data. So we do a tremendous amount of QC, and I wanted to show you two ways to look at that, especially if you're an editor or someone that's responsible for maintaining those points. We're going to show you one way in Pro and one way through our new AddressNC Experience Builder. Okay, so data funnels into NextGen from over 120 sources, something like that, 118, 120, into a single set. But sometimes that funnel can leak. And so that's what our job is to do the quality control on it and set the standards and really make it easy for the end user to be able to use that data and query it and analyze it, things like that. So for the program, we apply 6 areas of focus in our QC, and I'll begin with the first, which is consistency. So consistency and standardization they're close, they resemble each other, but there's differences. So I'll start with consistency first. So did you know there's 16 ways to spell incorporated? There's 7 ways to spell avenue. But with AddressNC, what you're going to find is there's one way to spell that. And that's our job, is to make it easy on you so that you only have to deal with one value instead of many. We've taken the OR operator out of your select by attributes. And so it's ease of use, and once again, that's our whole application, is incentive for you to look at this stuff. We use the NINA standard for the street directional, the modifiers, the street type, the street separators. So all that information gets standardized and spelled out, and everything's uppercase too in our data. We look at conflicts, so we use the USA zips, we use this official statewide municipal boundary layer, and the official county boundary layer from emergency management. We overlay our data, and if we find a conflict, we just report it. You said Raleigh, we say Cary. So, and that's our goal. Here's what we found, here's what it is. We do completeness. We look at all the 6 million parcels in the state. We query things that are greater than 25,000 for improved value. If we find a parcel that doesn't have an address point, we point that out. We think there might be a point here that's missed, especially if there's a structure there too, using building footprints. If we find a frequency greater than 1 down to the U.S. national grid level, which is very dense, we report that there's duplicates for the parent address, and most likely that's tied to sub-addresses, which are most likely there. And then finally, we look at things like, is the point in the street? And that's very typical. I think we have about probably 20, 30,000 points that are in the street. And I would guess that 911 wants that point on the structure. So we look for the precision there too. We categorize all our QC to make it easy for the end user to really zero in on what they're looking for. So of course we look at addresses, that's our focus, the sub-addresses. But we also look at the municipal boundary fields that are in there, We check to see if the states are spelled out correctly or if they're abbreviated. We look at the zips. Zip codes are probably our most abundant amount of QC that we find because they can vary so much. And then there's all the other things that can go wrong with the data. And then finally, you'll see in my demonstrations, we look at the change too. How is the data changing? And most likely that's a positive thing, of course. But what I'll show you is that change is not necessarily a new point. It could be many things. We've seen 5% growth since inception back 2 years ago. But today we have a way to show you where it has changed. Not how much, but where. So that's a good thing too. Our project motto is, this is GIS. It's all spatial. The fundamental theme is no PDFs ever for the end user, for the person that's reviewing our quality control. At the same time, the motto is it's not right. We're not saying it's right or wrong. We're just saying, FYI, this is what we found. You might want to look at it. So in summary, from our overall QC program, and by the way, we do this monthly. We pull that data down from NextGen, process it, throw out the old, put in the new, and just write over the previous set. So in the end, this is our report that we give to you. We through NC1 map, we give you a table of all of our inconsistencies. That's our buzzword, inconsistency, not error. We give you a table of that by county, and you can see all the things that we found. We give you 12 hosted layers that are served through NC1 Map service catalog, and that shows you what our corrections were, what our standards that we applied, the changes that we might have made, and we give you what I call my input-output. Here's what you gave us, here's what we found. And one of the other themes that we have is we don't change your data. We will never do that. We will standardize it and make it consistent, but we won't say it's wrong and we won't negate it. We also give you those 4 conflicts that I told you about, the zips, the municipal boundaries, the county and state. And then finally, we give you 4 hosted layers of those others, the missing ones, the ones that are in the street. And we also give you a detailed focus on new sub-addresses, where new points are expanding, where there was a parent last month and now there's 50 new sub-addresses. So all those 21 layers are easily found through NC1 Map. So switch over to Pro here for a second. If someone's got to maintain the addresses, someone's making the edits, obviously. So if you're that person that's doing that, I highly recommend in your desktop or Pro session and catalog to add the NC1 Map service. That's a one-time. It's there all the time after you do it, but it's a great way to get to this data. And so as you can see here, if you're in Pro, there's the 21 layers that I talked about. One of them's a table. There's that table that you can get all your information from. And it's very easy. You look at that table, see what we found, find the layer that's applicable, throw it into your map, and filter on your county, and you're good to go. So in this case right here, we're looking at all the things that, the inconsistencies we found for the floors in Moore County. So if you want to know more about the project or by the way, our data, it's all 100% coded domain. So we have codes behind the data, but we always make the descriptions intuitive for you to read and understand. If you want to know about that or look at our FAQ and understand the geocoder, things like that, go to the project website, and I'll have this as a barcode at the end. And while you're there, check out the other things that CGIA administers, like the ortho program, the NC parcels, broadband. It's all there to explore once you get there. So now I want to get out of Pro and get to the new experience that we have to offer. It's our way of helping you to visualize the inconsistencies, to look at all the statistics that go with the data, to see that change that I talked about. So there's a lot of stuff in here. And once again, this is, if you're not really that editor or that person that's doing the addresses, this is another way to look at the data and understand what it's all about. And so our goal is that as the person comes in to explore this data, they're probably going to want to focus on their county. They might not care about the rest of the state. And so what you'll find through this experience is that whatever page you land on, as you select your county, that county selection is going to be propagated throughout the rest of the experience. So every time you go to a new tab or a new section, it's going to be focused on where you left off with the previous one. That way you don't have to keep trying to find your location. So I think that's one of the better things about Experience Builder that we really like. So let me see, so I want to begin here by kind of explaining the layout of the experience. What you'll find is at the top we have our 3 sections. I think there's different words for these, pages, some people call them, but we give you 3 pages or sections: the home page, the status page, and the reporting. And so with each one of those pages, you'll find multiple tabs underneath that. So in this example, you can see progress, inconsistencies, things like that. In this example, this is our geocoding tab. If you want to do interactive geocoding, you can go right here and plug in your address and find what you're looking for. And so as I go along, so we can multitask through my 20 minutes, you can read the text that's in the blue box as I'm talking if you want to kind of multitask with me there. But in this case, this is the geocoder. It's great. It has very functional, fast type ahead. We have put in something like 100 different choices if it's the case. I'll say that probably the place in the state that we have the most addresses in one place is the View in Charlotte. There's 500 stacked geometry sublocations at that tower in Charlotte. So let me get back to the Home tab. This is your landing page when you start the experience. By the way, in a couple months, we'll have this on NC1 Map so you can actually find this. It's not live now. This is the home page. And here's where, at a minimum, you can see each county's status on the last time they submitted an address, just like the parcels map you see on NC1 Map. And so it's obviously color-coded. Everything in green is the most recent data that's out there right now. So, and like I said before, if you click on Wake County here, it's going to propagate that selection throughout the rest of the experience. Everything is connected, so Experience Builder is great in that you can connect your maps to your charts, to your table. So when you select one of those counties, it's going to filter the table and the chart as well, and it will zoom in for you. It will flash the county that you're looking at, so it's very fast and it's very intuitive. Let's see here. What else? Up in the upper right is helpful links that'll get you back to that project website that I just showed you before. So if you want to understand the schema, you can quickly, click here and get back to that project web page. And then, of course, down in the bottom is you can filter on your county, and that will show you all the inconsistencies. So this is where you want to begin, maybe if you're that editor. So then on our status page or section, this is where we try to show you the statistics and look at the counts and things like that. So I'll begin on the left side with our progress tab. This is progress over time. By definition, it is what it is. And we like to think that it's positive. If we see growth over time, that means the AddressNC is maintained. It's doing well. People are doing their updates every month. And so you can click on any county once again, and it will propagate those selections throughout the charts and the graphs there to see what's going on. One is address progress over time since inception, and another one is per month if you want to look at how it changed last month. We strive for monthly. Sometimes I might slip and maybe do it every 6 weeks, something like that, but generally it's every month. So the interesting thing about the change is, I wanted to point this out because this is something that's not really understood, is change is not necessarily a new point or a new location or 10,000 new points in a month. We look at change as any part of the address that has changed at all. And some of that can be tied to the address name, Some of that can be if you had 100 Main Street and then next month it's all been expanded to include units. But it could also be the precision too. So if you remember, I talked about points are in the street. So if that point was moved and it's in the structure right now, that's a change. It's more precise, and that's a good thing. Our inconsistencies tab, it lets you look at the detail of how many inconsistencies there were. And so this is a great way to see the magnitude of what we found on our quality control. Once again, it's very smart through Experience Builder. If you click on a county, it's going to show you the bar charts per graph down here. And as you zoom in, it's going to readjust that bar to show you just the extent of what it finds in the extent window. I'll say that this is one thing I love about Experience Builder. It's brand new as of last fall, is they give you these accordion widgets, and it's a great way to pack a lot of data into a small space. You can see here, you can look at the inconsistencies per range. So everything greater than 20,000 is in one accordion, and so on. So I would highly recommend using these accordions if you have a lot of data you want to pack into one place. The next tab is the new addresses. This is probably my favorite here. This is it's a great visual for local change. And as you zoom in, you can get more data. But at the top, at the let's see the small scale, it's it's a density, a heat density kind of scenario. So it's a great way to see what's going on in your county. So in this example, we look down and say, what in the world's going on down in Union County? There's a lot of change down there. So as you zoom in, then the densities go away and the data starts to present itself. And you can see here that there's been a lot of change. The red are all new addresses. But then you can also pick up the clusters too through the densities. And you can, if you go in there and look any deeper, you can see that this must be a new subdivision coming online, and all those addresses are new. And then at the same time, you can see there's a lot of points that aren't there at the bottom of that subdivision, and we expect those next month. So it's a great way of looking at change. The next one is our sub-addresses. We have placed so much focus on this in the last year because they're so important, because they represent nearly 12% of the data. There's over 900,000 sub-address locations in the state, so it's worthy to look at for sure. Like I said before, the view has over 500 points in one place. They're super critical for 911, I believe. I think it's important to know that that you live at 100 Main Street, Unit 1, not just the parent address. So check out our sub-addresses. There's good stuff there, and there's a lot of information. Population, it's like the outlier. It's another way of looking at the data. It just compares population, the address population to the county and the state. We use hex bins here instead of traditional symbology. Hex bins, if you haven't used them before, I would recommend whatever your data is to check it out. They're a great way to show data a different way. Plus, it's a great way to conceal your data if you need to. If it's maybe PII or sensitive data that doesn't need to be exposed. So check that out if you get a chance. And then finally, we have the reports section. This is where all those inconsistencies that I talked about are categorized, so you can drill in on just what you need to, what you're looking for. So in this case, it's the address part. And so we have over 45 different combinations of inconsistencies. Maybe it's invalid, maybe it was a standard, whatever. So, so our map services through NC1 Map do the predefined symbology. When you drag it in, you've already got all the symbols. We have very intuitive pop-ups that have a ton of arcade behind it. So as you click on that point, it's going to give you in bold type here the very general description. And as I talked about before, it's going to show you that input-output, the before and after. So what changed? So it's very easy just to see what's going on for any given point. And then finally, I'll end. If you're one of the people on this list here that's responsible for addressing, you probably received an email from me last week. And if you didn't, and if you're one of those people, please let me know. You should have gotten that if you're responsible for addressing. And so we will be having training for this experience and for the overall program, a 2-hour training session at the end of April. Once again, for those people that are doing this, this is not for everyone. So I will send out reminders for that if you got that email. But otherwise, we hope to have the experience released in mid-May after that training is done. And just check out NC1MAP announcements or the GIS listserv, or I will also broadcast a bulk email to everyone that we have as our contacts. We have nearly 400 contacts in the state. So be on the lookout for that. So that's it. Here's that barcode for the project website. I didn't know if I was in a big room, so I figured I would need a big barcode. So anyway, I hope that works for you. And I can talk about this all day. So give me a call or email if you have any questions, and we can spend a lot of time on this.
Thank you, Darren. So we have a few minutes for questions now from the audience. Anybody? No hands this morning? You all understood that?
Can you go back to the slide with the negative change? I'm just curious what that was.
Can you repeat the question for the
Oh, yeah.
recording?
So where was it? Where was that at?
There. Yeah. So at the bottom on the upper right, looks like the negative one. Double change negative. What was that?
Oh, I see that. So one thing that you'll find is sometimes we might apply. So change doesn't necessarily mean that the provider had change, but we might have come up with better standards or tightened up with some things, especially if we're really applying a lot of change for that month. Maybe we have a new idea, maybe a new way to code things. So sometimes that change might be a change in the standard. But in this case, it also might be a sign that something might be missing from the data. So this is month to month. So if something dropped out, there was a problem, maybe there was errors with the submittals, things like that, you might see a change. But generally speaking, you won't see negative change. But it does happen.
I thought it was addresses being subtracted somehow.
No, it could. And believe me, when you look at 6 million bits of data, there's a reason for everything. So when you look at it, it does make sense.
Anyone else? Questions? I asked the question earlier.
Yes. So, in one of these pages, there was a county that's not in North Carolina, it said the county of Tennessee.
There's one county that there's 3 points in a county in Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay.
And that shows up every month. It's the same 3 every month. So yes. And so that's probably a place where you might find a conflict. That point might be saying that it's not North Carolina. So. Okay.
Thank you, Darren. I look forward to that training. Thank you.
Thanks.